Well, and we are live for the First Strike podcast. This is KYT. No longer need to introduce our sponsor, FaceToFaceGames.com, because we're now on their channel. We're now moving from the Mana Deprived channel, the now defunct ManaDeprived.com YouTube channel, to now the Face-to-Face Games YouTube channel, which is where you're watching us now. Super excited episode today because we've got our most frequent guests, except Shaheen has needed to catch up now that we kept having Edgar Magalhaes on week after week because he's been doing well, but Shaheen bested him this past weekend with an excellent finish, finished at 22nd. His whole team got 12K USD. That's a lot of money. How's it going, my man, Shaheen Soorani?
It's going all right. I mean, we were pretty happy with the finish. It's a little bit bittersweet because we were 8-2 with 4 rounds left, and we won 3 at that point to miss really, an opportunity at top 4. And but we ran hot day 1, and day 2 was going pretty well. And it kind of came down to me losing some matchups that I wasn't prepared for. I played against the Bant Nexus deck twice, and did not sideboard well, didn't really know the deck, and kind of lost 2 matches I could have won, I think. And then I got trounced by blue-white Monument. So it was, it was a good tournament. We had a blast. Ely was on KCI. He went X2, so he would have probably won the Pro Tour if it was solo. The deck was absurd, and it's aptly that was the aptly named podcast title because it just I look at his match for a moment, and he has 2 guttural responses, and I look back in maybe like minute 30 seconds later, and he resolved one of his KCIs. He drew off a couple cantrips through double guttural against an opponent who had Cryptic Dispel Rest in Peace in play, who lost that game. So, I mean, the deck is just super resilient, and he was just wrecking people all day, both days, and it was fun to watch. And then Noah played Death Shadow in the Legacy seed. He didn't do so hot. Could have been the deck, could have been the matchups, not sure. But, 22nd night Pro Tour is good, and I played 0 matches before the Pro Tour with Esper, so I'm pretty happy with how I did.
Let's go straight from the beginning. How did this team get put together? I messaged you about last week coming on the show. I didn't realize that with the kid you managed to get on the tour, man. Tell me all about how did this team get together?
Well, we teamed together a bunch for Grand Prix. We teamed together twice and went. We got 6th and 8th or something like that, maybe 9th at 2 Grand Prix, and we basically were clicking in these tournaments, and it was a pretty big no-brainer to team for the Pro Tour. We're all on Card Hoarder. That was our final tournament with Card Hoarder. There's still going to be some announcement for us in a week or 2. We're finalizing our roster. I'm going to be starting a new team, new little Kickstarter team that I always end up doing at every other year or so. I try to find who's still interested in working together, and we've added a few new people. We got a new sponsor, so I'll be dropping that once we got our full 10-man roster. We're at like 6 or 7 people right now. But yeah, that's how we were on the team. Ely's the new BBD for me, where we team for everything. Now Ely teams with me for everything, and BBD's too big game for me these days. So kind of got dumped. That's how it works. That's how it works in the pro world.
But it happened before that. That's why you were a lingering soul, right?
I was. See, and I mean that was fun too. Like I like making teams, and I like finding people that wouldn't be the first choice for a lot of people, and we end up doing super well. I mean, obviously like Donald Smith and Top 8 Pro Tour on Lingering Souls, and Fennell, who doesn't get on teams too quickly, also Top 8 Pro Tour. And we had my boy Travis, that didn't work out too well for him, but Everybody else on the team was, just people that were just kind of left behind, either gold status or we had a platinum all at the end of that season, so we were pretty much successful. But yeah, so the older folks of Card Hoarder will be moving on together, and we will be on a new team together this season coming up. So it'll be fun.
Oh, so we don't know what the sponsor is. It might be you're negotiating. Is that what I'm getting?
We have one local game store that's a guaranteed sponsor. It's a Moonbase. It's the name of the store. It's it's like Midwest near Jacob Ball and Devin Kepke, two of our players. We also, Card Hoarder is going to stick around as a partial sponsor, giving us a little hookup. And we maybe are in discussion with another sponsor in my area. So we're trying to get, we're basically anyone out there. This is, hey, good little plug-in piece. Appreciate it. Anybody who wants to get their name out there with a collection of really strong Magic players and good ambassadors of the game, send me a message. Let me know.
All right, I like that. Very, very strong ambassador and master goldfisher also. Zero testing, only needs to test with himself. So you let us know how the team sort of put together. How did you decide on the decks? And like I was, of course, because you were on the show 1 year and 4 months ago talking about banning KCI. I'm like, oh, come on, Shaheen, play like modern. But I also knew that you're such a versatile player that you're not afraid to play legacy. You're also not afraid to play standard. So I knew there was a good chance you weren't playing modern.
Yeah, Ely top 8. We both played KCI a month ago at a Grand Prix, 2 months ago, and he top 8 at the Grand Prix. I lost my last round to Siggy. I would have got 9th. We both have the same record the entire tournament. So he's just as or better piloted with the deck as I am. And then Noah, of course, is known for legacy. I think the banning of Death Ray Shaman really hurt Noah because he was just crushing people with Grixis Delver and his other Death Ray decks. But like that leaves standard for me, and I have always performed pretty well in standard. And I play tested Grixis. I didn't jump to Esper for no reason. I play tested Grixis for 2 months. Grixis Control. I played Nicol Bolas and really tried to work it in when that came out a month before the Pro Tour. And I was doing okay. And then in 3 leagues in a row, I just got destroyed. And I was like, okay, I had 3 days before the tournament. I need a deck. Oliver, too, sent me his list for Esper. I changed a bunch of cards in it and made it my own, and ended up getting paired against him at the Pro Tour, which is funny. Of course, I crushed him. And then I got paired against Shahar Shenhar, who was playing Esper, same list as Oliver, and I crushed him too. So that was good. I mean, these young bloods trying to beat me in the Esper mirror, it's not going to happen, brother. It's not going to happen.
So what do you think about Esper moving forward for people who have local tournaments in Standard?
I think the deck's fantastic. I definitely was not prepared for Bant Nexus, and my sideboard was very skewed to the control mirror, and they're not the same deck. I got, against Dave Williams, I lost. I boarded out all my removal, and he played Baral on 2, and it was just a nightmare to deal with. And then I played against Li Shi Chan, who didn't have Baral, but he had Carnage Tyrant. So there are a lot of different variants. He plays 4 Carnage Tyrant in the sideboard. So, I think Esper was fine against the decks, but game 1, you're about 30% tops with handfuls of removal spells when their entire deck is so lean, and some of their fog cycle, and they have all these main deck hate cards that are like too many searches, the Time Walk itself, and the Planeswalkers. So you really need to have a fine-tuned sideboard to beat the matchup. I had 1 Eldest Reborn in my deck when I played against Li Shi Chen. I should have won that game. Where he tapped out for Carnage Tyrant, and I was in dominant position to beat him with Eldest Reborn, making him sacrifice and then being able to just reanimate it. Long story short, turn 11, I still had the same 5 lands out, so I died. But the card itself is a card that's really strong against Bant Nexus. You can easily set it up where you can take out their Planeswalker or sideboard creature, and then the card alone produces enough advantage for you to really take control of the game. So, like I said, you need a few sideboard slots dedicated to it. and I don't think it's an impossible matchup. I do think you're going to need a lot more negate effects than people have been playing. I see a lot of people playing 2 Jace to defeat, 1 negate. I think you're going to need nearly a full clip of those cards to beat that deck.
Is that the breakout deck of the tournament? All these Nexus of Faith decks?
Yeah, I think the card. I mean, the card was powerful. When I wrote my article for preview cards when the set first came out, I mentioned that card is gonna be pretty good. I mean, I didn't know the shell for it. I didn't even want to test it. It's not really my style of card. And I really was. I mean, I'm gonna play Torrential Gearhawk until it rotates in a few months, because no matter what these new flash in the pan cards are, I think on your show I mentioned it a few times, Gearhawk, instant speed like Glimmer of Genius and Disallows and all these cards are on a different power level than a lot of standard. And when your decks click with control, you really feel like you're on just a different playing field as everyone else. And that's what happened with me day one when I played against Black-Red. I was 4-1 against Black-Red, destroyed Green a bunch of times, the mirror. It was really these goofy decks that derailed me. I finished with 5 losses in an unfinished match, which would have been a loss, I think. But it was against, these decks I haven't prepared for. So if you're playing local event and you feel like Black-Red's going to be a big deck, that matchup is just wonderful for Esper. I have one, I can't remember the name of the card. What's the 1 black instant exile a colorless creature, gain life to its power, that goofy card out of M19? You know what I'm talking about. I can Google it real quick.
I have no clue what the name is.
I can't play it off at this point. That card has been so good. Fennel came up to me. I didn't play at the Pro Tour, but Fennel came up to me. He's like, I want you to solve an issue debate for me. He said, I was getting jokes saying this card is decent in the sideboard, and everyone says it's unplayable. And I'm like, it doesn't sound unplayable. So I tried it online. He was right. That card, if they turn to Scrap Heap and you cast that card, like, I don't know what the percentage is after that for you winning, but it's gross. You just go to 23 and exile. It just feels so good. So, you just got to get creative with your sideboarding. And, I think that Esper is great as long as half the field is not banned Nexus. I think it'll be fine.
Andy, just prior to the start of the show, you had mentioned Nexus is real hype. In fact, I've seen people complain in some of the Facebook groups I'm in about the availability of it, how crazy price it is. Your quick thoughts. Do you think it was the breakout deck of the tournament?
Yeah, it's like obviously the deck that went from not good to very playable and like one of the best decks for the time being. I'm interested to see how the format adjusts to it. I think Brad Nelson tweeted a card, Insult to Injury, how you could play that against the deck. And so I'm playing the deck right now in a league. Not this moment, but earlier. And every turn of the game, I'm like, if they have this card, I'm dead. If they have this card, I'm dead. If they have this card, I'm dead. So, like, if people start playing that kind of stuff and also, like, Lost Legacy, like, there are cards that hose it. So people really want to beat it because it's not a fun deck to lose to. So those are the kind of decks that people tend to over sideboard for. I think it could get taken down. Still has a lot of Teferis and Planeswalkers, though.
Are you a fan of the Esper Styles deck? Have you seen Shaheen's list?
Yeah. So I really like what Shaheen says is very true about control. Like when the deck's clicking, it beats everything. Like if you interact a couple times, like twice, and then play Teferi by turn 5, you almost always win, no matter what deck you're playing. And Esper tends to do that a little better than Blue White does, because Blue White has like only a few ways to interact in the first couple turns. So that's just a big winning play, is interact a couple times Teferi, and then you should win almost all those games.
All right. So definitely a deck to play. Everyone seems to be on board. Shaheen, so let's update your prediction. Is something getting banned from KCI?
If they're not stupid, yes. Like, come on. Everyone, like, if you touch this deck, if you really put the reps in with this deck, and you still think it's fine for the format, maybe I guess there'll be a small subset of the community that'll just reap the rewards for it for until the end of days. I mean, I don't know how many Matt Nass GP wins it's going to take for after watching Ely play and just destroy. He won a turn against 2 surgical extractions in the same turn, still won that match in game. It's just like there are hate cards for it, kind of like how he was discussing how there are hate cards for Band Nexus, and that will be effective. There are tons of hate cards for KCI, but it just seems to still win. And it doesn't hurt that KCI is always up a game. Like typically KCI is going to win game 1 against 90% of the decks. And if you're in a situation like that, it's really tough to take down in a deck games 2 and 3 in Modern that has such potent play out ability. They got to ban something. The format. Modern is a wild format where there's a lot of different decks. Your choice of whatever aggro combo deck you want to play or back control deck. If they want to keep it popular and popping like that, they're going to have to do something about this deck.
Yeah, they even had I was watching the stream. Ben Stark was piloting it for CFB, and he just looked like he had all the power in his deck to beat anyone. I think the commentator was Simon Gertson. I think it was him. He mentioned how he now had, apologies if I got the voice wrong, but he had mentioned how to him, Ancient Stirrings has moved up as a top 5 card in the format for him, and he could see that card being banned. What are your thoughts on that particular card being banned in Modern, or do you see another one taking the axe?
I mean, it's not the best card in the deck, and the deck can still operate without it. It'll be much worse. It won't be green based. I don't know what the base would be. It could be blue based, but like Glint Hawk or the bird thing, I forgot the name of it. And you can play. There's a goofy version with the blue X, when it put an artifact in play. And people tried other versions of blue, and the deck still functioned, but it would lose a lot of its potency. If you wanted to kill the deck, Mox Opal would kill the deck. It would also kill a lot of people's faith in Wizards in the format in general because it's such a high dollar card. It would completely massacre the value of that card, and I don't see them doing it. I mean, I know they don't make decisions based on financial reasons when it comes to bannings, but I think they do behind closed doors really discuss, what kind of reverberation would be there if we, nixed 50% of the value of the deck with one ban. So I think Stirrings would do enough. Make a lot of unhappy Tron players out there as well. I know that it's definitely, I don't know why it was so low for him on the power level at the beginning, because Ancient Stirrings is easily the best cantrip that's been out for a long time, and I think that'd be a good ban to moving forward. I think I hope they don't ban anything. I own the deck personally. I have vested interest in keeping the deck intact, but I just don't see them moving forward. I think I mentioned on the episode last year, it's also just a miserable deck to play against. It's bad for coverage. It's bad for Magic Online. It's bad for live general play. It's just bad for everybody. So it abuses the rules of Magic when you're overpaying for a chromatic star by sacrificing 2 things at once. It's counterintuitive to what people know about how the rules work, how the stack works, and paying costs work, and it's just it's kind of one of the last survivors of a deck like that.
I guess most people weren't going to play it as. Did you see the metagame breakdown for Modern? It was humans with 27 copies, blue-white control. I mean, I think that's in your wheelhouse at 18 copies, and right under that was Ironworks combo at 17. Most people still on that 5 color humans. Yeah,
that's a lot of copies of the deck. I can't believe there are that many. I mean, it's not an easy deck to play, and it's not an easy deck to pick up in the tournament where you have a giant target on your back. Everybody in the room knew he had to beat KCI for this tournament. Nassif had 3 Rest in Peace and 3 Stony Silence to beat the deck, and that's a lot of enchantment hate. And if you watch his streams, he doesn't even play close to that many hate enchantment cards. It's because to walk into a tournament and then knowing that this is public enemy number 1 and still to play the deck is a testament on how good the deck is. And Ben Stark's deck, he butchered his version. Like, that's why he struggled. I think that's why he struggled later in the day. But it's not. It's even if you add some silly blue sideboard cards and kind of change the sideboard around, the deck still is a shell. Is leaps and bounds more powerful than the other decks in Modern.
Do you have a secret blue-white version, like hiding somewhere?
Blue-white control?
Yeah, that you would play?
Yeah, I actually wrote last article about, I think, I didn't put my list out there, but I wrote about, I think that blue-white is the best control deck right now, Miracles. And I really like Terminus in Modern, and I think the double top 8 in the GPA in Europe kind of this solidified that as like the direction to go for Modern control. There's a Jeskai control deck in the top 8 also, but I think it was Eduardo, the guy who, he's just a absurdly good player. I think it's like, if Wafo top 8s with his 17 Think Twice control deck, it's not because the deck's good, it's because he's good. And I think that's what Eduardo's success there was. But I think the two blue-white control players who were relatively amateur players compared to the rest of the field of successful players there, I think that shows you that deck is great. So I'm playing, it's very similar. It's a couple searches, some Terminuses, a Supreme Verdict in the main to kind of switch it up against humans, so you have both options. And the rest of the deck is pretty similar to everyone else's. You got a Oust here, a Condemn here, Paths, Cryptics, Logic Knot, Mana Leak. So nothing too crazy for my version. It's pretty similar to what top 8 of the Grand Prix. Just this sideboard always has for me 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Stony Silence minimum, regardless of what everyone else is doing. And I at this point in the metagame, I probably play a 3rd Rest in Peace, just like Nassif did.
Andy, do you have any deck-specific, format-specific questions for Shaheen?
Could you repeat the question?
Do you have any format-specific or card-specific question to ask Shaheen?
I'm not sure. Do you think that Control can fix the Fog matchup with just slamming a bunch of negates in it, like negates and defeats?
I don't know about fix. It's tough. I think the deck there's so many negate and defeat targets. I think that it's not going to fix it, but I think you're favored after board. I think you have to be because at the end of the day, the Nexus deck is playing 5 to 7 mana, or 4 to 7 mana sorcery speed. Well, not sorcery speed, but expensive, counterable things that you can battle with 2 mana. So I think logistically is your best shot. I think with 4 Gear Hulk, bunch of defeats, bunch of negates, I think you're fine. If you're playing Esper, you can also play Lost Legacy, but like you said, it is really reaching deep to try to really beat the deck. And I hate Lost Legacy as a card. I wouldn't bring it against any other deck. So I would rather just have cards I can splash, hate, control mirrors, and what's the other deck? This Monument deck. Not Monument. The 7 mana artifact deck too. So things that you can
gift,
your gift deck. So things you can bring in against multiple matches would be better. So
I think the Eldest Reborn might be like the secret, like best way to deal with the deck in black. Just it deals with the Carnage Tyrant plan, which is a tough plan for you, and also like when they tap out for Teferi, most of the time it's hard for them to also have a counterspell. Like if you would have to have them have Teferi and a counterspell, you not have a counterspell and get your Eldest Reborn countered. And I think that's not going to come up that often. So right. I think Eldest Reborn is absolutely terrifying. I had someone play it against me, and if I did not have a negate, the game would be over on the spot.
Right, and it's a good card against the other decks too. Like the Mirror, it's really good against. Grixis mid-range is really good against. And also, you can get them to tap out pretty easily. If they wait later in the game, and they play Teferi with 2 open, you're like, Gear Hulk. They're like, defeat your Gear Hulk, draw a card, untap 2 lands. You're like Eldest Reborn. They're like negate. You negate their negate, and then you're left with just this really powerful threat in the game where they must answer it immediately. They're pretty screwed. So, yeah, I think it's good. It might be good enough. I played one on the board. I'm probably gonna up it to 2.
Yeah, Doomfall. Doomfall also does a lot of work on both ends. So I think those 2 cards are pretty good catch-alls in a bunch of matchups.
Yeah, I had a Doomfall. I had a split Doomfall and Eldritch Reborn. I don't know if I would do it now. This after playing Eldritch Reborn, it was just so good.
So Shaheen, overall, what did you think of the team format? Or do you think they're going to do it again? And you think actually, like I talked about 12, how the team won $12,000. Someone in chat went, "Whoa, $12,000!" They don't really associate magic number with a big cash number. Of course, this was 3 players. When you divide by 3, it's 4K each. If you divide it equally, but what did you think? Are they going to do it? Are they going to run it back? Should they? Some people thought like how the RPTQs system, how that stuff happened, where RPTQs were capped, so they thought they might not run it back for logistical reasons because it was tough. Some people had to fly really far because they didn't expect the RPTQs to be capped. But for you, I don't think you had to deal with any of that stuff. So, what are your thoughts?
Luckily, I was gold coming into this event, which made it a lot easier. And the finish, I think that for the players, it was one of the best events I've ever played in. I mean, it's $12,000, 4,000 each for 22nd place is absurd. I mean, that's just 22nd place out of 170 teams or whatever is not hard to achieve, in my opinion. And the amount of pay they did to it is ridiculous. They gave away, almost $1 million in this tournament. So I think that the pay here makes it for the players. They should really do it again. But for them, it was a pretty pricey tournament. I don't know if they're willing to dish out that kind of dough on a regular basis. So, if they do, this tournament was insanely popular amongst viewers. It was insanely popular for competitors. It was the coverage folk loved it. I mean, it was just popular across the board. Beside the RPTQ fiasco, but they saw this now, and now they can fix it. So they can address those kind of situations. You maybe offer Wizards sponsored RPTQs at different sites, or pay local game stores additional monies to open up additional sites. There's ways around this. But as far as the tournament goes, it's great. I mean, I had a blast. They gave out a foil set of a random set from Origins up to every player in the tournament. I got a full set of Origins. That was cool. So everyone's bag had one foil set of random set from Origins up. So, it's so many cool little perks here for this tournament. And some players, I got to talk to some players of the tournament. I like to do my little socializing, and they're like, "This is my first Pro Tour, and this is the best Pro Tour. I cannot believe this is my first Pro Tour." And they're just having the time of their lives where, they had a playmat that's now selling for $300 if you bought the playmat. So, they did a great job with this. It was very nostalgic. The team tournament itself is super fun. There's a certain level of camaraderie that it brings to Magic that never really exists in single individual tournaments. So, it's not like the people that complain about team tournaments, they have real concerns about not being able to find teammates, etc., and depending on people, but they are definitely in the minority. If you look at how Star City's tournament results are, how many people show up for those, and how many people clamoring to get into this Pro Tour, it's definitely a 15 to 1 ratio on people that are pro team events and people that are not. So I think it's great.
This is the last question. As a previous limited master on SCG, when they had all these limited opens, what do you think of the suggestions of, well, this has been talked about, but again, this resurfaces when we see the viewer numbers of cutting limited completely from the Pro Tour?
Please, God, blow it up. Get rid of it. God, I'm glad you brought that up, and I swear this was not a stage question for people that are watching. I am heinous at limited now. I mean, I dread the draft. I used to pride myself, like you said, I used to feel like I was one of the best drafters in the world because at Pro Tours, I was almost at a 70% win rate in limited. Like, it was absurd. And I had 5 SCG wins in limited, and I dedicated my life to mastering limited. But because it's such a small part of the Pro Tour now, and I'm old and I got a job and family and all this, I don't have time to draft nonstop, and I have to pick and choose what am I going to spend my time on. And there are 6 rounds every 5 months or 4 months I have to prepare for. I'm not going to spend time doing that. There's one limited GP that I go to per 6 months or something. They cut those down too. So I think limited is important for the game. I think they can keep it in team limited and GPs and all that, but I would love for them to eradicate it from the Pro Tour so we can really focus on one format that we are preparing for and mastering, and not have to have this really random. You're playing this modern Pro Tour with these powerful decks, and then you're like, all right, now it's time to play M19 limited. It just doesn't fit, and people hate watching it, and no one reads any articles that are limited based. The viewership on draft articles is abysmal. I don't even request it from Cedric to write about limited because it's just not, people just don't want to read it. It's unpopular.
Andy, do you share the same sentiments?
I'm torn because, so as a player, when you're playing in the Pro Tour, limited for me is one of my favorite parts. Like high level limited Magic is just incredible. It's like some of the most fun I could have playing Magic. But I think it's better to cater to the viewers and to what's going to sell you the most product, and the more viewers gives you the more advertisement, and people like to watch Constructed more. And I've always said it's because of one reason, because when you're playing Constructed, you can root for a player or you can root for your deck. But when you're watching Limited, you can only really root for the players. You can be happy about their draft archetype being weird or cool, like some of the Sam Black drafts I've seen. But at the end of the day, it doesn't happen as nearly as often as the narratives that are played out in Constructed Magic. It's just more entertaining and easier from a coverage standpoint.
Yeah, and let me add to that. Limited is awesome. It's super fun. It's probably more fun than Constructed is if you really gauge people's enjoyment level. But as a third thing to add, also when people watch it, they can't run and go buy that limited deck. When they watch Constructed, they want to go buy this Constructed deck. It fuels third-party websites. It fuels digital Magic. The Pro Tour fuels local game stores selling out of their cards. There's such a huge, invisible hand reach to the Pro Tours and the best of the best, showcasing what decks to play to the sale of Magic cards, that it's time to, really just make the Pro Tour one format. And, every other game and sport and everything, esport is like that too. It doesn't really shift from these wild formats that have such different styles and all that, and it takes forever logistically to set up for the limited portion. And I just think that it's all about, like I said, number one is viewership, and although drafting is fun and probably the most enjoyable part of competitive Magic, I think there's a place for it at Grand Prix still. So it won't be extinct, but it probably should get removed from the Pro Tour.
Good stuff. All right. Well, we'll let you go, Shaheen. Anything you want to plug besides to go to StarCityGames.com to check all your sweet ass articles?
Appreciate it, man. Yep, Friday article comes out, and I'll be writing about Esper Control and, article number 10,000 on Esper Control, probably. 10,000th anniversary. Appreciate it, man.
Well, we're actually, one last question. We're less than a month away from the NFL season. Give me your 49ers prediction. How will they do this season?
Talking about Jimmy G? There's a lot of hype, which typically makes me nervous. Because when Jim Harbaugh came in, there wasn't as much hype, and he really turned the team around. So I'm going to give a cautious 8-8 final record is my prediction. Better. It's gonna be enjoyable to watch the games. I'm actually gonna watch them from beginning to end.
All right, I'll be. They're also my favorite team, so I'll be sure to tweet about them or chat with you about them. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah, man.
Get you back again when you win over 10 G's collectively as a team. See you next time, dude. Thanks,
brother.
All righty, that was Shaheen Soorani, my man, who's been on the A team and the show the most. but of course Edgar's been catching up to him. And Andy, I think you brought up a good point because I was trying to think to myself, and we have mentioned this on the show. I think to myself, why are people drafting limited populate? Like Kenji Numatanami doesn't have that issue. Like he used to when I was following stream dominate the stream totals, but like you said, like him, he's someone that you know all his like gimmick lines is funny. You know what to expect, and it's someone that you want to root for. Versus at a Pro Tour, you're like saying that you don't know who that guy is. It's like a random Canadian, Japanese guy or whatever, and you're just like you can only relate to maybe the deck that they're playing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, all the time I'll be watching a match with like the deck I really like in standard or modern, and I really want them to win. And like I'm not, and I could see more casual players even gravitating to more like feeling of interest in seeing their deck win. And me as a very competitive player, I want to see the decks I choose to win as well because it makes me feel smarter.
And now we're bringing in my good friend once again, coming back to the show, Mr. Doesn't Like to Mulligan and limited specialist, MTG Arena boss, Twitch streamer, man of multiple talents, Mr. Travis Sowers. How's it going, Semulin?
Doing good, boss. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So the last topic I know you've been peeking in was, I wonder if you care about this. If people decide
I care about this
to can limited your bread and butter away from the Pro Tour, is that do you care if viewers and money for Wizards and WotC is what's important?
I care. I do also have to say that Shaheen Soorani is one of the coolest dudes in Magic. Because our last names are sort of close and we live in the same area, I have ended up registering a lot of decks next to this guy. And he is so nice, like unbelievably nice. He is such a cool dude. But yeah, I care. I think that limited should have a place in the spotlight. I get everything everyone's saying. And I don't see why we can't have like one big limited tournament per year. Like, I understand that not everybody would be into that. I do agree for like the Players Championships. Yeah, make those bastards draft. Like, get in there. But like for regular Pro Tours, yeah, you need to sell the decks, you need to sell the cards, and y'all are right. Like the part of the narrative, like maybe they could do a better job focusing the narrative on the players, but they're not selling players, they're selling cards. But maybe give me one big limited tournament a year I can get excited about.
I think the one time someone mentioned, or one of us mentioned on PT, they were building up the limited master, but they didn't even feature the limited master draft or play his matches. And it's like, what's the point then? Like you're finally building up this character that you need, and it's like, okay, when we're hyped, how does this limited master guy draft? Is he wacky? Is that why he's crushing everyone? It's like, nope, let's feature someone else. And I guess you guys know, Andy, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the guy, they showed his stats at the Pro Tour draft, and he had like a 78% win rate over like a bunch of Pro Tours. And like you got to watch his draft and then see none of his matches. That's all I wanted to see was this guy. They like hyped him up. They got me excited to watch this guy masterfully outplay his opponents in draft. And that's a really fun part of watching draft, is like leveraging skill level. It's actually incredible. The best part about watching draft. And we just got to miss it.
Well, I mean, like, just why would WotC care about the secondary market and selling, I don't know, a card like Nexus of Fate? Like, they need you to buy packs, right? And drafters buy more packs than anybody else. So, like, I think promotion could be done there too, but c'est la vie.
So something I wonder on that point is, so you say like drafters buy the packs, obviously to draft. But do you think stores open more product when a set comes out than they ever sell drafting? Like, I'm sure Face and like Star City Games crack case after case after case. And I feel like that's got to be like in the range, or if not more, than they would ever sell drafting. And that's all because of the secondary market and constructed.
I don't know, man. I do a lot of drafts. But you're right.
Well, that's a good point, Andy. Well, there's definitely a lot of cases and boxes that were sold initially. So good point on that front. Travis, let's jump to you. Man, I mean, I think rewinding, let's go back to your last appearance or before that. You're talking about how to make streaming your full-time thing, and you gave yourself a deadline. I think that was your last appearance. I might be wrong. You didn't know if you were going to hit the goal you would in December. You ended up hitting it before December, and now you're still streaming. So things are steadying for you, my friend.
They're steadying and they've increased. I was streaming Arena during the Pro Tour, and I had people come in and be like, I took a break from watching the Pro Tour since they're between rounds, and I wanted to check out some limited. And half of the chat said, "What's the Pro Tour?" Like, no joke. Like, there's a lot of people playing Magic on Arena who just have no connection to the paper cards at all, which I think for a game that hasn't even gone out of closed beta yet is phenomenal.
And so you're saying, I think you mentioned it on stream too, that am I right if you're to say that MTG Arena has single-handedly boosted your viewership?
Oh yeah, it's tripled it. Like, I'm the only guy or gal or person, I guess, that's doing limited on Arena. You need about a 70% win rate in their quick draft format to be able to kind of chain them. And I can do that. And it doesn't seem like a lot of other people can or have the interest in doing so. My problem is I just never liked constructed. So like, even if I was terrible and spewing money at it, I'd still be drafting somewhere. Like, I don't want to play constructed, but I can draft all day and it's great. And I get to go draft old formats. We got to do Hour of Devastation for a week.
So what has happened since I haven't logged on MTGO in a while? What has happened to the player base there? Are like the player base completely divided when it comes to M19 drafting?
I don't know. I haven't logged on to it in a long time either. But that's actually not true. I logged in some when M19 came out and played it. But I think that the people that are interested in Arena are not necessarily the same people that are interested in Magic Online right now. If you're a big Modern player, Commander player, current draft format player, you're not really interested in Arena. What's interesting is I was concerned because the quick draft format in Arena changes week to week. And last week it was M19. And I was a little concerned because it's back to Dominaria this week. I was like, I wonder if my viewership's going to want to watch me draft that. That's really old. And they were excited about it. They don't care what the current format is. They care about what they're drafting right now on Arena. And the fact that, like, I know the pick orders and what you're supposed to take in Dominaria, they were all really excited about it. But these are not people who are going to play on Magic Online. Like, I've always said that I feel like Magic Online is for the paper player who's like, I really want more of this. I want it more competitively, and I want to be able to play in my underwear. If that's where you're at, Magic Online is wonderful for you. But if you're just like, hey, I kind of like Magic and I want to play some, Arena is probably a better direction.
What's interesting is there were throwback drafts on MTGO, right? And and you had played them. You're saying that when did you stream those when they had them? And maybe you notice a difference in how people are receiving these throwbacks?
Oh yeah. Well, like, part of why they're doing it in Arena is people need to build their collections, right? So there's no real way for you to get M and Ket cards unless they do M and Ket drafts and you can win the packs and that sort of thing. Okay. So like this is a little different than the flashback drafts they had on Magic Online in the past. This is basically everything that's in standard. They're just kind of cycling through those draft formats. So we are getting ones from 2 years ago, which is really neat because I drafted it and I know what it's about. And half of the people watching have no idea how that format works. So they're all kind of jumping in to learn how to do that.
I had seen like a conversation between you and my friend Spencer Howland and about how Magic Arena might be the future of tournament Magic. And I think you said I 100% agreed or something like that. Am I right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because of how easy this is to get into. So like if you look at Hearthstone and how it's grown, and I know there's a lot of comparisons between Hearthstone and Arena, but Blizzard does a really good job at making video games. One thing that always kept me out of Hearthstone was I couldn't figure out how to get in any of the tournaments. And I wanted to play in tournaments. I couldn't find them in there. And I eventually got sick of it and went back to Magic Online. That's one thing WotC does best. Like, say what you will about Magic Online's interface. If you want to play at a tournament at midnight, you can go find one. So I don't think that this is going to replace paper Magic. And I don't think that it's going to immediately eclipse it, but I think that eventually it has the power to do that. Because if I want to play paper Magic, you kind of got to know somebody. Like you need one of your buddies to be like, hey, check out this cool dragon, or go into a game store to buy a D&D book and see a tournament happening. Like the exposure to get into it, there's kind of a high barrier for entry. And if you go to that store and try to get in and play there and there's some jerk at the local game store, maybe you're like, screw it, I don't want to play. Whereas like none of that's here for Arena. It's like, and the tutorial's actually great. My wife happens to be an excellent Magic player. She beat me at a PPTQ, but we're not going to talk about that. She played through the tutorial as somebody that hadn't played Magic seriously in 2 years. And it was great. Like I watched her do it. It explained how to do it. It's a great way to get into this game. So I just think we've got a more massive audience. Add on to that WotC's propensity to design really, really good tournament interfaces. And I think we'll be having Arena tournaments that are bigger than anything we have in paper Magic or on Magic Online. It'll be down the road, but yeah, I think that's definitely coming.
I wonder though, Andy, like do paper stores like face-to-face games, Channel Fireball, Cersei Games, do they care about this? Like,
no, I don't think they're going to lose anything over Arena, and if they are, it's not going to happen for a long time, and it's not going to happen all at once. So this is something that they can do, that they can control, right? They could try to mitigate that by having better tournaments, or like it gives them some competition, and WotC enters the game of competition, so that's kind of good for them as well. So hopefully it goes well. I don't see any stores really losing much out of it.
I think Travis might see this as like a good funnel maybe for some, like players get into Arena and they're like, oh, let's check out my local LGS maybe.
It works both ways, but the interesting part about this is Magic Online was never that. Duels was only that. Arena is that and something else. Like you can play it for what it is and enjoy that, or you can go to the paper game store. And I think there's certain people who are looking for different things. I was never really interested in the social aspect of Magic. There was just somebody across the table that I had to beat to get to the next stage. Whereas there's other people who are like, this is how I want to meet my friends. And like, that's cool, but that wasn't for me. So for all the me's out there, if you just want to, sit down and crush drafts all day, you can do that. You don't have to leave the house.
I'm hurt. I mean, we became such good friends. What the hell?
We did, and we met through the game of Magic, but we didn't meet by playing against each other. We met online. Like you're in Montreal, I'm in, the United States, and yet we've still come together through digital Magic. How cool is that?
That's also how you met your wife, right?
It is.
Andy, what were you going to say before I cut you, I think?
I have no clue. Just being honest.
Like I think maybe you wanted to elaborate if they should be a threat to paper Magic stores.
Oh, I think I was just going to mention that. So I never go to a local store because of Magic Online, and so maybe Arena could eventually do that as well. Like I honestly, I've played like maybe 10 local events in like a year and a half, and I play Magic Online every day. So maybe if like Arena starts taking some of the more casual people away, then maybe there'll be some more competition, more incentive. They'll start having to incentivize people to come out, and maybe they could eventually get even people like me to crawl out of my my place to go to some local game store.
They've already tested that with promo codes in boosters for Arena in New Zealand. And like, if the promo codes get interesting enough, maybe I get a cool card back. Who knows what it could be? They could get me to go to a pre-release again.
The whole promo code thing.
Like, what if they give you just like, if you go to pre-release, you get like one mythic of whatever you want, right? Like maybe you'd go.
Yeah. I mean, that could be enough.
I think the argument is like, how many of Andy type players like that they lose to Magic Online do they care about? Like what part of the pie, what's the percentage of competitive players? And we keep hearing that it's really small compared to the casual market. So
how many competitive players are they going to F&M? Like that feels like Michael Jordan going to the Y and just dunking on some noobs. Like, why would he bother?
I don't know, because he wants to feel like a winner.
I guess.
Andy, you look like you wanted to jump in. No?
I was gonna say Watsy doesn't care about people like me. I'm not really gaining them that much money. I'm spending a ludicrous amount to go to Grand Prix, but I guess they only really see the entry fee, if that, right? So that's about it. I don't really give them a lot of my money. I spend a lot of money to play Magic, but it doesn't really go to Watsy. It goes to like gasoline, hotels, and everyone else except Watsy.
All right. There's another interesting question from Twitter. Again, involves. I saw it because Spencer retweeted someone called Punt Master Flex 01. I think it relates to all three of us, actually. He goes, should I try and pour everything I have into content creation? Is it worth the time to try and make videos for YouTube, stream, and write short articles on what I think about the decks I play? Spencer replies, it's a tough question. Only you can answer, people. Constructive criticism is a full-time job for me that makes basically no money, but I love it. And Chewy, who I related to, because he said, don't do that. No, he said, as someone who's been doing this full-time for a couple of years now, I can't recommend it unless you can monetarily afford it. I've only recently gotten to the point I'm not terrified of rent every month, just every third month. So Chewy is someone that podcasted the Mana Pool for a long time and also jumped on board as, I believe, the website manager and all-around manager of MTG Cast. And I know that he's tweeted on and off about struggling with making ends meet sometimes. So I can relate to that. And then Spencer mentioned that, well, he meant that his podcast was a full-time job, but he also has a real full-time job. So he feels like he has two full jobs, one that can support everything that he does, and so he's able to pour his heart out in this other thing. So, man, I mean, we just sort of talked about it in your situation, Travis, when someone's asking if they should put their heart into it. What does your gut say?
Do it for fun and see what happens. Like, what's the worst case that can happen there? Produce a couple things, see what sort of feedback you got. Like, that's kind of where I started, was recording some draft videos in the forums on Draft Magic, because I was like, I'm really bad at drafting. I need somebody to watch this and tell me where I'm screwing up. I didn't expect it would be Frankel that would watch it and eventually lead to a friendship between you and I, and, you know, content creation as a career now. But like, I did that to kind of toss that out there and see what would happen, and it developed from there. This wasn't something that I decided to do, you know, yesterday or just a year ago. This was something that kind of built itself up. So if anybody's saying, should I try content creation? Yeah, try it. Should you, having absolutely no following anywhere, quit your job right now and make this your full-time career? That'd be really stupid. Maybe if you've just run a pro tour, you could launch right off of that into something. But like with no following, no, you shouldn't, you know, jump right off. But do a couple, whatever it is you're going to do. Write an article, right? You can, you know, publish it on Twitter if that's what you want to do. Like, KYT will publish anything. You can send it to him.
Great advice, Travis, for someone that's currently doing it. And I think you had built a following when you had a real job as a salesman, if I'm correct. And so that allowed you to have that, you know, initial base. And I think that for me, why I relate to Chewy and why it's, if someone was in my position, I guess if I can go back, I wouldn't be so intense about it. I would also think about that I would grow up at one point and have responsibility, like you, your wife, me, I'm married now, family, stuff like that would come into play. That didn't come into my brain, my psyche, or anything when I was in high school or in college, university, still messing around with Mana Deprived on the side and having all this free time to go on 12 hours total, 6 hours there, 6 hours back, PTQs. Now I don't have that luxury. And the difference is back then, so I didn't, because my costs were low, um, and I was just focusing on school, I could justify spending a lot of time on and not getting any money back for all the stuff that I did. And the thing that I wish someone had told me or I did differently was that I had some sort of, not like a business plan as in to make a lot of money, but just a way to make it sustainable. That I wasn't just, I was doing really silly stuff like buying the domain name or subscribing to different services to host my videos per month outside of YouTube. And so I was pouring all this money because I had this what I thought at the time was disposable income, and I just poured it into building my brand, building my site. But at the end of the day, I didn't think about like how was I going to make money long term. I was just trying to build and have all these people know my brand, know who I am. That made me feel good, but it didn't. At the end of the day, it was like you still need an equation, and starting a blog site, a strategy content based site. Was not a good strategy because you need all these sponsors. And then at some point, if these sponsors are giving you a lot of money, they should have started their content site a long time ago, right? So I was not in the right, like, for me to be in the right thing, I would have had to start my own card store or something. Like, there had to be a business component for it to be able to support itself. And I think that's the key thing that I want people that are starting out, that are listening to me, that want to jump into it. It's not that it's important to make a lot of money, but it has to be. You'll eventually find out that it has to be worth your while. And now I look back, it's like, sure, I just spent years and years and years and years of managing pride, but I also bled a lot of sweat, blood, money into it, and without any plan at all. And I think that is a deep regret. Luckily enough, like, people love me enough that my brand had value. Face-to-face games valued what I did and everything I did in the past. So that helped. But maybe what if that didn't happen? What if there was no face-to-facegames.com? So it's like, yeah. So I'm with Travis. Just feel it out for fun. But like, if you're going to get to the serious territory, then you have to ask yourself the serious money questions. And I don't know if you have anything to say to that, Travis, to my long rant. That I just hope people don't do it better than I did.
I'll back you up there, because as soon as I was like, okay, I'm going to do this full time, I sat down and mathed out how many subscribers do I need? How many hours do I need to stream? What do I need to promote the stream? And I began religiously doing all of those things. And then after it didn't work the first year, I was like, okay, how can I make it happen the second year? And we managed to pull it off. So like, you're going to have some nights where, maybe it's peanut butter sandwich instead of a steak. But if you're doing what you love, like I would choose that. I could make a lot more money in sales than I can in Magic content creation. Like, no questions asked, could probably quadruple the income that I have tomorrow if that was my decision. But I would way rather do this. Like, this is just happier for me. So if you're going to do it, like, try it for fun. Make sure you actually enjoy doing it. Because like, quitting your good job to do this and then finding out you don't like it and you're just getting paid less is really bad. But if you actually like it, then sit down and make your plan, follow the plan, and make sure that you're hitting those milestones. Because otherwise you don't really have a job. You're just kind of subsidizing a hobby.
I'll let you jump in, Andy. Like, you almost wanted to jump in the Twitch waters, or you're still streaming, but not full time.
Yeah, so I think so. You have to gauge on how much you want to put into it and understand that it's a lot more work than it looks like all the time. And if you think you're like, okay, I understand how much work it is, it's actually more work. And what you have to do is you have to make yourself a business plan. You can't just do it and hope it works out, because then you're not going to get the results you want, and that could leave you feeling bad about what you're doing. Like, oh, I'm not getting enough viewers, I'm not doing this. You have to understand what gets those things and then do the right things to make sure you get that kind of stuff. And I streamed like every day for like 4 weeks or something, or like 3 weeks. And it was a lot of fun, and I could see that the viewer base was building and stuff. But it's so hard to do with school and with a job, and I honestly don't think I could do it. Like, I could do it for fun. But at this time, like working full time or in school full time, I'm not sure that I'm capable of devoting all my time without like losing my sanity. And so I understand that. Like, look, a good example is look at pros like Brad Nelson and Owen. Remind me of good examples. Is those guys could have like a stream better than I could probably ever reasonably have in an instant, and they choose not to do it. And that's because it's an absolute ludicrous amount of work for how much you get paid for so long. For so long until like you finally get made, and then eventually you finally get the dividends. But can you survive? And just like a business plan, you have to expect to lose money for so long before you start making money. So I think you have to view it like that, and you have to be set up financially and mentally in the same kind of attitude.
Wow.
Can confirm.
Testament to you, Travis.
Yeah, I'm awesome, but he's right, and I've still got a long way to go. I've still got a long way to go. I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I'm like, when people ask me what I do now, I'm not embarrassed to say it, and that's step one.
That the one thing that's related to this, I think, to the whole whether entrepreneur starting your own business type thing, is what we're seeing online is a lot of people that are starting to front that they're pretending to be something that they're not. I just wanted, Travis, if you had that experience, so one example was before I started Mana Deprived, I had a friend of mine. I wouldn't say he's a friend because he ended up borrowing cards. He was the type that borrowed cards, a lot of expensive cards, and disappeared for a year. Probably sold them off and just like came back and gave back the cards, and they probably weren't the same ones. But he's done a lot of sketchy stuff. But I still remember before I started Mana Deprived, and had Patrick Chapin on my show multiple times, whether it be the A-Team or Crazy Talk. This guy would tell me that he would, he had access to Chapin, that he would talk to him or chat with him or email him. And really, I think what he was just saying, like he talked as if he was a personal friend that he could just call up. And what that really was probably just like random emails or just random messages that Chapin finally decided to answer. And then later on, he stopped doing that once Chapin came on my show. Like he stopped like bragging that he knew all these pros, and at that point, it's like he didn't know anybody, as I found out. And I think that's the same thing for a lot of things. I still remember a good friend of mine would, also lie about a lot of things like that to boast about their credibility and stuff. And I don't know if you encountered that in your space, actually. Probably not.
Well, to an extent, I mean, there's always going to be people hiding behind the anonymity of the internet. Like for me, when I decided to stream, I decided I'm not going to put, the show is going to be genuine. It's going to be me, and it's going to be me doing what I do. I'm not going to play a character. I'm going to play the game. And I set some ground rules in the beginning. Like mine is one of the few Twitch chats that's family friendly. Like if you come in my Twitch chat and you curse, you will get banned. No takesies, backsies. I don't curse on the stream. As you know, I do curse in person, but I'm like, if I'm going to play a children's card game, it probably needs to be family friendly. Other than that, there's no conditions or constraints that I put on myself. Now, there are some streamers that I watch that are absolutely putting on a show. There was this dude for a while that was really entertaining, that like his whole shtick was aliens had invaded, and if he didn't beat every Nintendo game, they were going to destroy the earth. Like that guy's obviously playing a character and putting on a show. So like when it comes to content creation, you can do that kind of however you want. My route was to be genuine, because I felt like if I'm actually, like what I didn't like about sales was I basically had to pretend I was someone I wasn't, which was somebody who gave a crap about whether you buy this thing or not. Whereas now I just get to be me. We can be open, we can be honest. And I've made a lot of friends through that.
You're just answering something quickly in chat. I think what I wanted to say is like eventually, that was just a quick example I wanted to get off my chest. But at this point, there's a lot of people fronting expertise and then using that, I think, to sell stuff. Like I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. It's not, okay. Now I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Okay. Well, let me say my example, and maybe you have one too. But it hasn't come up recently, but over the last 10 years, you see someone like, oh, top 8 at one Pro Tour, here's 10 tips to get my free ebook and then buy my course, or come train with me for an hour at like $80 to $100 an hour, something like that, when the person clearly is not qualified, stuff like that. We have seen on and off. Again, it's getting more popular because we're seeing a lot of these internet boasters, like entrepreneurs like Ty Lopez and stuff like that, doing that. And so people are really inspired by that. And then they port over that model into whatever they're doing, whether it's magic, whatever their hobby is, and trying to make a quick buck. And I'm seeing it a lot. And honestly, some people that have been acquaintances or sort of friends have fallen under that trap and are doing that in their specific field. And it's like, I feel it's very scammy. You're just overcharging. You have actual no expertise whatsoever. People like just talking about them being able to trade stocks and then selling a course like that they have no business selling. So I just hope people who are content creating stick true to themselves and are authentic with their audience, and don't try to just convert a quick buck.
Where I come from, we call them snake oil salesmen. Like you bump into them, the traveling salesperson that would come through the town and offer the magic elixir that solves everything. And I see that, people who are boastful and, proclaim loudly that they know what they're talking about and just don't. You should see some of the offers that I get in my email as a streamer about the new games that are coming out and how great it's going to be for my stream and all of these sort of things. And, this service that I can sign up for that'll boost my views. And I'm like, good Lord, no, I ain't interested in that. And then just from a magic perspective, somebody will come in and start arguing with me over a pick. And I understand that's another reason why sometimes limited can be difficult to watch, is like, you'll see somebody pick a card and you don't understand why. Like, there are people that'll come in there and basically say, I'm excellent at draft and I know this is the right pick. And I'll say, okay, what qualifications are we basing this off of? Like, I've been tracking Dominaria this week. I'm at 70%. Are you better than 7? Like, give me some reason to believe you. And they're like, well, I won a game at F&M with that card is finally what we come down to. And I'm like, no, like, let's get the roles straight. I can help you. So like, yeah, I see a lot of that, particularly in my inbox is where I see most of it.
I don't know if those are, some of them are actually not bots. Like, some of them are, I've gotten emails to boost whatever it is. And when I say I'm not interested, just curious to see what they respond. They actually respond as like an actual human trying to convince me.
Yeah, they're really good bots.
Or they're really good bots. But then there's just some that just reply with the same automated message. But I've seen that a lot, not as prominent now. And I certainly don't feel like firing shots. There's a few that come to mind publicly. So, but I frown upon a lot of things. Alrighty, I think we're getting ready to wrap the show. Any last thoughts about content creation and all that jazz, or anything that you want to talk about before we call it a show?
I think content creation is a lot of fun, and you can put as much effort into it as you feel like you'll gain value from it, like that'll make you happier. And I think if you're interested, you should certainly try it. It like doesn't really cost anything to try it for the most part. And especially if you can get some good feedback. And I think it's important to give new content creators feedback just so that they know what to do right, what to do better, what to do different, or maybe they don't care. Like, maybe I'm not their target audience, but just any more information that they can take in as a new content creator is good. And to just listen to all the feedback, even if it's like, you suck, you have to understand, okay, this person thinks I suck. Why do they think I suck? Like, what about me is making them feel that way? And then you can think about it. That's about it.
You've inspired me to say one last thing, which is when it comes to feedback, I think a lot of people don't listen to feedback. You don't have to listen to all feedback and feel depressed and sad if people hate you. Have a balanced approach. I've seen people have, whether it's a draft channel or any other type of vlog I've seen people put like 5,000 videos and they all have less than 100 views. And then it's at some point you have to realize like persistence is important. It's one thing, and you should be persistent at the beginning, even if you have no viewers. But at some point, you've got to figure maybe it's your approach, maybe you're not doing something right. And I once pointed out to a YouTuber, I mean, like, I'm like, your thumbnails, they suck. Right now, people are gaming their thumbnails. You need your thumbnails to be A+ because they show up on the sidebar on YouTube. What are people going to randomly click when they see you versus a bunch of people? They're not going to click on your crappy thumbnail. And I told this person this like over a year ago. They still have the same style thumbnails. They still have less than 50 views per video. So don't be that person, please. Please don't be that person. Listen to feedback. And actually, you don't even need to listen to feedback. Look at the stats. Just look at what the stats are telling you. No one's watching you. Okay? So, and hashtag slash end rant. Travis, any last words, any plugs you want to do?
Come watch my stream. It's at twitch.tv/Simulan. You should do that. And then onto what KYT is saying there, like, get feedback from people who are successful in what you're wanting to do. You would be surprised if you reach out who's willing to talk to you. Not everybody will be, but if there's somebody that's already doing what you want to be doing, reach out to them and have a conversation with them about it. I've had a few people who are starting streaming shoot me an email and ask for some tips, and I'm very happy to do that and engage with them. Also, be a little careful about survivorship bias as you get into content creation. Like, just because someone did something and was successful does not mean that that is the recipe to being successful. Like, they can accidentally get Twitch famous, but not have done it right. Right. So like, much like I say, people will come in and say, you know, they're talking about limited. I'm like, don't only listen to anybody, including me. Right. Like, take my opinion, then take the opinion of the pro who you're talking about in chat, then add in, go listen to Limited Resources, listen to Men from Moto, listen to Lords of Limited, listen to everybody that plays Limited, and then build your picture. So like, if you want to be, you know, Simulan, certainly ask my advice, but get the advice from some other streamers as well, and then kind of lump all that together and get a picture.
Oh, again, man, you just ignite something I want to say all the time, you guys. It's like all these videos of people analyzing the habits of billionaires, and that's all they've been doing, and they are not anywhere close to getting rich because they're just studying people that are billionaires that have certain traits, and it's might not apply to your field. It might not. They might have gone rich because they were lucky in the right spot at the right time. So, you know, yeah, there's a lot, and you know, on YouTube, a lot of those thumbnails with those big dollar signs, with those, you know, and the word billionaire and Lamborghinis and dressing rich and stuff like that. So, yeah, you hit that nail, man. Survivor bias is a real thing that a lot of people fall for that trap. All right. So I'm going to shout out people from the First Strike Nation: Derek Pite, J. Thomas Ian, Jonathan Good, Matthew Kelly, Sash Pablo. Thank you for supporting. Thank you, everyone in First Strike Nation supporting. You can join patreon.com/First Strike. Just posted a deck tag from Andy himself about the specific card choices he decided to choose for his 5-color humans deck. And yeah, I think that's will do for this episode, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one. This was a good one, guys. Thanks. Hit subscribe, like, because this is the new channel that the show will be on. Bye, guys.
Adios.